He was signed to a $28 million endorsement contract and did nothing. Nobody has proof of anything that he did. Zero things. No likes, no retweets, no posts, no...
Kawhi Leonard received $28 million without doing a single thing. No ads, no public appearances, absolutely nothing. Yet now, under mounting pressure, Kawhi has allegedly gone further, revealing secrets about the Clippers and uncovering a scheme far bigger than anyone expected. Shockingly, his own testimony could lead to contract cancellations and jeopardize the Clippers' future. Let's dive into it. The explosive investigation. On September 3rd, 2025, investigative sports journalist Pablo Torre released what could be the most sensational basketball expose in decades. After 7 months of research and analyzing over 3,000 documents, Torre uncovered what seems to be a complex plot involving the Los Angeles Clippers, their billionaire owner, Steve Ballmer, and now-defunct environmental company called Aspiration.
The NBA investigates, okay, how did the Clippers get Kawhi Leonard? They found no proof, right? This was something that the NBA was infuriated by around the league. It was the Lakers, it was the Raptors, everybody wondering how did Steve Ballmer and...
Where Torre's investigation gets truly astonishing is here. The story isn't merely about basketball or salary caps. It centers on 2 Harvard alumni and 2 Democratic politicians initiating what turned out to be a $2.3 billion climate-focused venture. The company assembled an A-list lineup of endorsers, including Robert Downey Jr., Leonardo DiCaprio, Cindy Crawford, and Orlando Bloom.
What has never been reported, though, until today is the most important, most highly paid endorsement deal they signed, which was more than 4 times the combined value of every other celebrity. And that endorsement deal was signed with one of probably, I would say, the worst pitchmen when it comes to like good athletes in America, and it's Kawhi Leonard.
This venture was Aspiration, which received $50 million from Steve Ballmer, who is not only the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, but also the wealthiest owner in professional sports. The timing of this deal is critical to understanding why this might represent the most elaborate salary cap circumvention in NBA history. Even more astounding is what Torre found regarding Leonard's actual involvement with this environmental company. When asked whether there was any evidence that Kawhi Leonard did work to justify the enormous $28 million, Torre's answer was devastating.
That's my favorite part, is that typically in a story like this, you say, okay, there's no evidence, and that's a problem. Here, the absence of evidence is kind of the evidence. He was signed to a $28 million endorsement contract and did nothing. Nobody has proof of anything that he did. Zero things. No likes, no retweets, no posts, no tree plantings. This was a company that was supposed to plant trees to zero out your carbon footprint and help save the planet. Kawhi did nothing that any...
Let's examine the timeline that raises red flags. In August 2021, Leonard signed a 4-year, $176.3 million extension with the Clippers. This contract was below market rate for a player of his talent, giving the Clippers extra salary cap space. Merely a month later, in September 2021, Ballmer invested $50 million into Aspiration through his LLC, Popat. But the story gets even more complex. Also in September 2021, the Clippers announced Aspiration as a founding partner of their new Intuit Dome Arena in a $300 million, 23-year sponsorship. Then in November 2021, Leonard's LLC KL2 Aspire was officially registered in California. By April 2022, the 4-year, $28 million endorsement agreement went live. What makes this setup so potentially catastrophic for the Clippers is the design of Leonard's endorsement contract. According to Torre's investigation, the agreement had clauses allowing Leonard to receive payment without performing any duties. Even more incriminating, the deal would be nullified if Leonard left Clippers or retired, effectively linking this enormous payment to his ongoing tenure with the team. The consequences of this story go far beyond just Leonard and the Clippers. It appears tied to a far larger fraud operation that has already led to criminal charges. Aspiration's co-founder Joe Sandberg pled guilty in August 2025 to wire fraud involving over $248 million, and the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in March 2025. What makes this story particularly intriguing is how it relates to Leonard's past conduct during free agency. According to Tor, this pursuit of no-show positions isn't new for Leonard's camp. During his 2019 free agency talks with the Toronto Raptors, Leonard's uncle and advisor Dennis Robertson sought no-show sponsorships and ownership stakes in outside companies. The main difference: the Raptors rejected these requests, whereas the Clippers appear to have accepted similar arrangements. The depth of Tor's investigation is staggering. He didn't rely solely on documents and bankruptcy filings. Tor interviewed 7 anonymous former Aspiration employees, including one who spoke on record using a voice modulator. When asked about Leonard's involvement with the company, the employees' responses were damning.
Did you ever see proof of Kawhi Leonard marketing or endorsing Aspiration in any way?
Never, not once. The single largest payment to an individual for marketing that Aspiration ever made has completely evaded all press. It's honestly incredible. Nothing. He didn't have to do anything.
In other words, Kawhi Leonard got from Aspiration a $28 million no-show job.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm honestly so jealous.
This is not merely about a single player or a single team. The potential fallout for the NBA is massive. Under the 2023 collective bargaining agreement, violations could result in severe sanctions, drawing comparisons to the 2000 Minnesota Timberwolves case with Joe Smith, where 5 first-round draft picks were forfeited. What makes this story so gripping is that it perfectly mirrors everything we know about Kawhi Leonard's personality and approach to his career. Stephen A. Smith, never one to hold back, delivered perhaps the harshest critique of Leonard's character regarding the scandal.
First of all, I'm going to always give Steve Ballmer the benefit of the doubt. Having said that, let me tell you what really, really stands out with me and why I said, believe it or not, some of this is believable. Because there's a sentence in here where it says, the deal was with Kawhi Leonard's company, KL2 Aspire, LLC, and included clauses allowing Leonard to do nothing, yet still collect payment. That's the Kawhi Leonard I know. Doing nothing.
Stephen A. didn't stop there. His commentary encapsulates exactly why the scandal seems plausible to anyone who has followed Leonard's career.
Saw this report, and it said, money for doing nothing. I said, that's what made me pause. Not because of Steve Ballmer, not because of the Clippers, because of him. Because if there's a way for this brother to get money, guaranteed without work.
The striking aspect of the scandal, if you can call it that, is how closely it aligns with Leonard's established behavioral patterns. This is a player renowned as the ultimate professional on the court, yet consistently finding ways to maximize earnings while minimizing actual work. The intricate deception and Steve Ballmer's reaction further complicate matters. To grasp just how deep this goes, we must examine Aspiration itself. This was not a fleeting startup. Aspiration was founded in 2013 by Joe Sandberg and Andrew Cherney, branded as a sustainable fintech company with initiatives in tree planting and...
We signed that deal with Kawhi before any of this, before Kawhi even knows these people. We've signed our deal. That's high integrity. We made our deal with Aspiration. Literally, I had no control over the company.
By 2021, Aspiration had raised $865 million and reached a valuation of $2.3 billion. But the story takes an even wilder turn. The fraud at Aspiration was not small scale. Federal investigations revealed that 80 to 90% of their claimed $865 million in raised funds came from fabricated letters of intent. Consider that for a moment. This company was essentially built entirely on lies. Remarkably, Steve Ballmer, one of the most accomplished businessmen in history, was completely deceived by it. When the scandal surfaced, Ballmer's response was immediate and decisive. Watching his interviews, you can almost see him calculating how to distance himself from what is clearly an extremely embarrassing situation for someone of his business expertise.
That's okay. The average fan should understand that. And they went off and made a deal. I don't know what the deal is. I know what the reports are with the speculation. I don't know what the deal is or was. And frankly, I can't even tell you whether it's this much different, that much different, or not different at all from some of the other endorsement contracts that athletes do.
What makes Ballmer's reaction so intriguing is that he's not only denying knowledge of the scheme, he's casting himself as a victim. Across multiple interviews, Ballmer consistently insisted that he was defrauded by Aspiration, stating, "They conned me." Let's be honest. Steve Ballmer isn't just any businessman. This is a former CEO of Microsoft with a net worth around $120 billion. For someone of his stature to claim total ignorance of a $28 million payment to his star player, funded by a company he invested $50 million in, stretches credibility to the limit. Yet, the deeper you examine Ballmer's explanation, the more questions emerge. In his interview, he asserts his lack of oversight and control over the investment.
Well, I know what I heard, and what I heard there was Steve Ballmer saying, I had no control over the company. We did it by the book. And when you hear those two things, it tends to make you wonder about, okay, what's the third leg of the stool here, Steve? Did you have any idea that there was...
This statement is striking for several reasons. First, Ballmer essentially admits to investing $50 million in a company without exercising any oversight. Second, he claims to be unaware of a deal involving his own star player. Even though Aspiration's bankruptcy filings clearly list KL2 Aspire, Leonard's LLC, as a creditor for $7 million, the timeline is crucial for understanding why Ballmer's claims of innocence are under scrutiny. In September 2021, Ballmer invested $50 million in Aspiration. That same month, the Clippers announced their massive $300 million sponsorship deal with Aspiration. Just 2 months later, Aspiration approached the Clippers requesting an introduction to Leonard, and by April 2022, the $28 million deal was finalized. Skepticism about Ballmer's claims is not unfounded, as one analyst noted when discussing the situation.
Harkens back to Eddie DiBartolo, who had the San Francisco 49ers. Half of the salary cap rules supposedly were drafted as a result of NFL investigations into DiBartolo's alternative methods of payments. After they won a Super Bowl, he brought everybody to Hawaii and gave them like ridiculously expensive Rolex watches. Over a certain level, you're supposed to claim that. There was also that he supposedly arranged them to invest in companies that had like mini malls or something. And it was this wonderful chap who came out of New Orleans with a lot of allegations of ties to gambling, whatever. But he tried to find ways to keep his team together and to pay the players more, and half of the salary cap.
The analyst draws a comparison that perfectly illustrates why the scenario feels so familiar to anyone who follows NBA history. This historical context is critical because it shows that wealthy owners finding creative ways to bypass salary caps is not new. What is new, however, is the sheer scale and sophistication of this particular scheme and its apparent connection to a massive corporate fraud. The deeper you dig into the details, the more complex the web of connections becomes. For example, Aspiration didn't just have a sponsorship deal with the Clippers. They also bid $1.1 billion for the naming rights to the team's new arena. That's nearly double what Intuit ultimately paid for those same rights. For a company built largely on fraudulent financial statements, they were certainly willing to spend enormous sums when it involved Steve Ballmer and the Clippers. Perhaps the most revealing aspect, however, is what Tor discovered about the structure of Leonard's contract itself. The agreement contained clauses that would void the deal if Leonard left Clippers or retired. This is not typical for legitimate endorsement agreements, where an athlete's team affiliation usually does not matter. But this contract was explicitly structured to benefit the Clippers by ensuring Leonard remained on the roster. Even more suspicious is what Tor found regarding the contract's minimal requirements. Leonard was only obligated to provide 50 autographs per year, 1 photo approval per month, and 5 social media interactions annually. However, even these minimal duties included a clause allowing Leonard to opt out if the task conflicted with his personal beliefs. According to Tor's investigation, Leonard did not meet even these minimal requirements. There is no evidence of him promoting Aspiration in any way. No social media posts, no public appearances, no endorsements of their environmental mission. He effectively received $28 million for doing nothing. The scheme's sophistication is further highlighted by how payments were made. Instead of paying Leonard directly, funds went to his LLC, KL2 Aspire, managed by his uncle Dennis Robertson, creating a separation that likely made detection by the NBA more difficult, at least initially. What makes this story even more striking is the pattern of behavior it reveals. During Leonard's 2019 free agency negotiations with the Toronto Raptors, Robertson made similar requests for no-show sponsorships and ownership stakes. The difference? Toronto said no, while the Clippers apparently said yes. The repercussions extend far beyond Leonard and the Clippers. The NBA has retained the law firm WCTL Lipton Rosen and Katz, the same firm that investigated former Clippers owner Donald Sterling and Suns owner Robert Sarver. This is not a routine inquiry. The NBA has deployed its heaviest resources. Potential penalties are severe. Drawing from the 2000 Minnesota Timberwolves precedent, the Clippers could face fines up to $7.5 million, loss of draft picks, or even contract nullifications. In that Timberwolves case, the team forfeited 5 first-round draft picks for salary cap circumvention. The fallout is already impacting the NBA ecosystem. Perhaps no reaction has been more telling than Stephen A. Smith, who delivered what might be the most scathing character attack on Kawhi Leonard in his entire career. Smith didn't merely critique Leonard's alleged role in the scheme. He leveraged it as this scandal serves as a launching point to utterly eviscerate Leonard's entire professional approach. And frankly, it's hard to argue with the reasoning behind it.
Star I have ever seen in sports. Worse and superstar being the operative words. No denying he's a superstar, but I have never seen a superstar do less to market and promote his team or promote the brand. It was so bad, doggy, that I almost had a heart. I'm telling you right now, I had to go to the doctor and get checked up because I had palpitations. When I saw this man on a podium at a press conference post-game actually talking, I couldn't believe it.
Stephen A. Smith perfectly summarizes why the scandal seems so credible to anyone who has followed Leonard's career. This is a player who has repeatedly found ways to maximize his earnings while minimizing actual obligations. Smith continues with examples that are both hilarious and incriminating.
This is a man that did New Balance commercials, and the kids spoke, Molly. The kids. He didn't say a word. I've seen them go up to him and need him to sign autographs and fraternize with the public when he was sitting behind on the bench, collected about $40+ million, and he wouldn't do it.
Yet Smith's most damning point is how the scandal aligns seamlessly with Leonard's established behavior pattern.
And it said, money for doing nothing. I said, That's what made me pause. Not because of Steve Ballmer, not because of the Clippers, because of him. Because if there's a way for this brother to get money, guaranteed without working,
the numbers back up Smith's claims in an almost comical way. Over Leonard's 6 seasons with the Clippers, he has played only 266 out of 492 possible regular season games, just over 50%. And yet, throughout this period, he has consistently ranked among the highest paid players in the league.
Season is 82
Come on, Pat, you should know it's 82 games.
492. Out of 492 regular season games, Vinny, he's played only 266.
So he's played half the time he's
half the time. So
he's better than Zion Williamson.
The irony becomes even clearer when considering the Clippers' alleged goal in circumventing the salary cap to retain Leonard. The team aimed to be championship contenders, but they have repeatedly underperformed, often due to Leonard's availability issues.
Championships. Nothing happened.
Stacked, baby.
Nothing happened. Nothing happened with these guys. Go ahead. Give us your expertise
shams right now.
in badminton.
This is what is called a bad ROI for you business owners out there and you investors out there. You think you're going to get a sweetheart deal, whatever happened, follow the money, with what I would call probably the most fun, richest owner in the NBA, Steve Ballmer.
The contrast with their crosstown rivals is stark. While the Clippers were allegedly engaging in this elaborate scheme to keep Leonard, the Lakers won the 2020 championship. The very year Leonard joined the Clippers. Despite all their maneuvers and alleged violations, the Clippers have nothing to show for it. But this scandal reaches far beyond Leonard and the Clippers. It raises fundamental questions about the NBA's salary cap system and whether it can truly ensure competitive balance when owners like Steve Ballmer have virtually unlimited resources to find creative workarounds. The more details emerge about Aspiration, the more sophisticated this alleged scheme appears. The company didn't just have the Clippers sponsorship and Leonard's endorsement deal. They also bid $1.1 billion for the naming rights to the Clippers arena, nearly double what Intuit ultimately paid.
Them publicly or quiet and privately, there's usually nothing in the middle. Nothing in the middle.
That's a good point.
It's like, go study why Jordan played baseball for 2 years. And then go look at big things where they're jumping at the microphone and sending a $500,000 fine to Mark Cuban because what he said about the refs last night, and they're just like on fire.
Yeah, that's why they have
I
the
think
WNBA.
this is going to be. I think this is going to be either big, and they're going to find a connection.
For a company built on fraudulent financial statements, they clearly were willing to spend whatever it took to maintain their relationship with Ballmer and the Clippers. The NBA's response to this scandal will likely set important precedents for handling similar cases in the future. The league has retained WCDL, Lipton, Rosen, and Katz, the same firm that investigated Donald Sterling and Robert Sarver. This signals that the league is taking these allegations extremely seriously. Potential penalties are severe and could fundamentally alter the Clippers' future, based on the precedent set by the Minnesota Timberwolves case. The Clippers could face forfeiture of multiple first-round draft picks, fines exceeding $7 million, and even the voiding of Leonard's contract. Interview 1947, 2019. What makes the situation particularly compelling is its potential impact on other teams and players across the league. If the NBA imposes harsh penalties on the Clippers, it will send a clear signal that salary cap circumvention will not be tolerated, regardless of the scheme's sophistication or the owner's wealth. Yet there's another aspect that has received less attention: the federal investigation into Aspiration itself. Joe Sandberg, the company's co-founder, has already pleaded guilty to wire fraud involving $248 million. This scandal extends beyond NBA salary cap rules. It involves a massive corporate fraud scheme connected to a professional basketball team. The scope of Aspiration's deception is staggering. Federal investigators found that 80 to 90% of their claimed revenue pipeline came from fabricated letters of intent, effectively running a sophisticated Ponzi scheme disguised as an environmental technology company. Throughout the scandal, Leonard's silence has been deafening. He has made no public statements, given no interviews, and offered no explanation regarding his role in the alleged scheme. For a player whose brand centers on being the strong, silent type, this scandal risks reframing that silence as calculated and potentially deceptive. The implications for Leonard's legacy are significant. This is a two-time NBA champion and two-time Finals MVP, widely regarded as one of the best two-way players of his generation. Yet the scandal threatens to overshadow his accomplishments, particularly considering his history of load management and missed games. For the Clippers, the timing could not be worse. The team just opened their new $2 billion arena and hoped to emerge in the shadow of their crosstown rivals. Instead, they face potentially devastating sanctions that could set the franchise back for years. Steve Ballmer's reputation as a respected owner in professional sports is also under scrutiny. Whether he was a fraud victim or a willing participant in salary cap circumvention, this situation occurred on his watch and with his funds. The broader implications for the NBA are profound. If teams can funnel money to players through third-party companies, it undermines the purpose of the salary cap. The league's response will determine whether the salary cap remains a meaningful tool for competitive balance or becomes just another hurdle for creative billionaire owners to circumvent. What is particularly fascinating is how this case exposes the vulnerability of the NBA's current system. Salary cap rules were designed to prevent direct payments from teams to players outside of their contracts, but they were not built to handle sophisticated schemes involving third-party companies funded by team owners. The precedent set here will likely influence how the NBA regulates endorsement deals and third-party payments for years to come. If the league determines that the Clippers violated the salary cap, stricter oversight of all endorsement deals involving players and companies connected to team ownership could follow. For fans of competitive balance, this scandal represents the dangers of allowing billionaire owners to find creative loopholes. Steve Ballmer's net worth of approximately $120 billion. Interview 2347, 2355. Steve Ballmer's wealth dwarfs that of most other NBA owners. If he can leverage that fortune to fund companies that then pay his players off the books, it creates an inherently unfair competitive advantage. The irony is that, despite all this alleged scheming, the Clippers have been one of the most disappointing teams in the NBA during Leonard's tenure. They failed to win a championship, frequently underperformed in the playoffs, and were consistently overshadowed by their crosstown rivals. As one analyst put it, the financial consequences for the Clippers could be catastrophic. If the NBA voids Leonard's contract, the team would not only lose their star player, but also remove his salary from their books, potentially impacting their ability to sign other players. The forfeiture of draft picks would further limit their capacity to rebuild or acquire young talent. Perhaps the most profound long-term effect will be on the relationship between the NBA and its players. This scandal demonstrates that the current system of salary cap enforcement may be inadequate to handle the ingenuity of modern sports business. The league may need to impose far stricter disclosure requirements for all third-party payments to players, regardless of claims of independence from teams. The federal investigation into Aspiration also raises questions about due diligence in professional sports. How did a company built on fraudulent financial statements secure a $300 million sponsorship deal with an NBA team? How did they persuade one of the world's most successful businessmen to invest $50 million? And how did they manage to pay $21 million to a player for no work before detection? These questions extend beyond basketball, touching on corporate governance, due diligence, and fraud prevention in professional sports. The answers could influence how all leagues handle sponsorships and third-party payments moving forward. As the scandal continues to unfold, one thing is clear. The era of players and teams finding creative ways around salary cap rules may be coming to an end. The NBA's response will likely set the standard for handling similar cases for years to come. The ultimate legacy of the scandal may not be about Kawhi Leonard or Steve Ballmer, but about the reforms it forces the NBA to adopt. If the league uses this case to strengthen oversight and enforcement, it could make the NBA more competitive and fair in the long term. Conversely, if the NBA fails to act decisively, or if penalties are seen as inadequate, it can encourage other wealthy owners to exploit similar loopholes, fundamentally altering competitive balance. The next few months will be critical in determining which path the NBA takes. The investigation is ongoing, penalties are still pending, and the full scope of the scandal may remain unknown. One thing is certain. The NBA will never view third-party endorsement deals the same way again. For Kawhi Leonard, this scandal could define the final chapter of his career. For Steve Ballmer, it is a humbling reminder that even billionaires can fall victim to sophisticated schemes, fraud schemes. And for the NBA, it serves as a wake-up call that the modern sports business environment demands far more sophisticated oversight and enforcement mechanisms. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.